Childbirth should have killed off the human race. Right now, somewhere in your family tree, a woman gave birth on the ground with no doctor and no idea if she'd survive the hour. Statistically, she probably did. It wasn't medicine that saved her, and it wasn't luck. It was something sitting right next to her, and you won't guess what until the end. This is how our species cheated death long enough to make you. This is Ugg. Ugg is not the one giving birth tonight. Ugg's entire contribution so far has been pacing and asking unhelpful questions through the wall of the shelter. Ugg will not be invited back inside. In modern childbirth, even with hospitals, monitors, and surgeons on standby, is still one of the most dangerous things a human body does. Now subtract every single one of those safety nets. That's tonight. For basically every human who ever lived before about 150 years ago. Anthropologists have a name for why this is so hard in the first place. It's called the obstetrical dilemma, and it comes down to a fight between two things evolution wanted at the same time. Big brains needed big heads. Walking upright on two legs needed a narrower pelvis for balance and speed. Those two demands don't agree with each other, and the baby's skull is the one caught in the middle. So human babies are born at what is basically the last possible second before the head gets too big to fit, which is also why human babies come out so helpless compared to almost every other animal on Earth. A baby zebra can run from a lion within an hour of being born. A human baby cannot lift its own head for months. We traded born ready for born with a bigger brain, and childbirth is where humanity pays the bill. Which brings us to the actual survival strategy. It was not medicine, it was not tools, it was other women. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies almost never find women giving birth completely alone. Nearly every documented culture uses assisted birth, with experienced women present. Humans appear to be the only great ape that consistently does this. Chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, give birth alone, often at night, hidden away from the group. Human mothers do the opposite. We evolved to make childbirth a group project. Researchers call this idea the midwife hypothesis. The theory is that human childbirth became so mechanically difficult that natural selection actually favored women who wanted help nearby and elders who knew how to give it. And that single shift, needing help and getting it, may be one of the oldest roots of human cooperation itself. Before language, before religion, before agriculture, we were already leaning on each other to survive being born. Meanwhile, outside, Ugg has invented a new hobby. Chewing on a stick and asking through the wall if everything is okay. It is not okay. Please stop asking, Ugg. In most traditional societies, men are kept firmly away from the birth itself. Not out of superstition alone. It is a genuinely practical rule. Panicking men are, historically, not great in a medical emergency. Talk wanders over first, somehow even less useful than Ugg, followed by Borg, who immediately announces this whole waiting outside thing is a waste of a perfectly good night. Borg suggests hunting instead. Borg suggests hunting for every problem, including last week, an argument about the weather. Finn shows up last and immediately asks Ugg 40 questions about what's happening inside. Ugg does not have 40 answers. This, it turns out, is also historically accurate. Birth was almost universally treated as women's business, with men kept outside, uninformed, and mildly panicked. So what did actually help besides moral support? Position, mostly. Almost no traditional society gives birth lying flat on their back, the way modern hospitals default to. Squatting, kneeling, or hanging from a supported position all use gravity to help rather than fight it. Cross-cultural surveys of traditional birth practices found upright positions were, by far, the most common choice worldwide. Some cultures used a birthing stool, Others used a rope or a low branch to hang on to. The common thread is simple. Humans figured out independently all over the world that upright works better than flat. Heat mattered too. A fire kept nearby wasn't just comfort. Newborns lose body heat fast, and a cold birth in a cold season could be fatal within minutes for a baby with almost no fat reserves yet. And there was real herbal knowledge too. Ethnobotanists, researchers who study traditional plant knowledge, have documented dozens of plants used across different cultures to ease labor pain or slow bleeding afterward. This knowledge wasn't guesswork passed down by accident. It was tested, refined, and taught, generation after generation by women, largely undocumented by history, because history mostly wrote down what men were doing. None of this made childbirth safe. It made it survivable, which is a very different word. Even with every advantage a tribe could offer, maternal death was a real, constant, terrifying possibility. Estimates from skeletal and historical records suggest maternal mortality in societies without modern medicine could run anywhere from 1 to 2% per birth. That sounds small, until you remember most women gave birth many times across their lives. Do that math across 5, 6, 7 pregnancies, and the lifetime risk stacks up fast. Childbirth was, for most of human history, one of the single most dangerous things a woman could survive repeatedly. This is also, bluntly, one of the real reasons grandmothers mattered so much. A woman who survives childbirth and menopause and lives on for decades afterward is doing something most mammals never do at all. Researchers call this the grandmother hypothesis. Older women who survive past their own fertile years may have driven human survival by helping raise grandchildren, freeing up mothers, and carrying exactly this kind of birth knowledge forward. So here is the uncomfortable twist. Every single one of us is descended from women who survived this over and over, in conditions with no painkillers, no stitches, and no guarantee. If even one link in that chain had broken differently, you would not exist to watch this. Meanwhile, outside, the group has started a betting pool on whether it's a boy or a girl. Borg is losing badly and has now bet on neither, which is not an option, and everyone has told him this. Let's go deeper on what assisted birth actually meant in practice, because it was far more sophisticated than just moral support. Experienced birth attendants learned to recognize when labor was progressing normally and when something was going wrong, like a baby positioned feet first, called a breech birth, which is far riskier without modern intervention. Traditional birth attendants developed real physical techniques for this. Some cultures documented methods for manually attempting to turn a breech baby, techniques modern obstetrics still uses variations of today. This is worth sitting with. A skill modern doctors train for years to perform safely was independently discovered, tested, and passed down verbally by women with no written language, no formal training, and no margin for error. Umbilical cords were handled carefully too. Many traditional cultures used a sharpened stone flake or shell to cut the cord, then tied it off with plant fiber or sinew, a genuinely functional bit of prehistoric surgery. And the placenta itself carried real cultural weight. Many societies, ancient and modern, treated it with ritual significance, burying it or marking the spot, tying the new life symbolically to the land. And then, after all of that, the sound every single person outside has been waiting for. A first cry. Newborn humans cry immediately, loudly, and for a very practical reason. That first cry forces air into lungs that have never breathed before. It is, quite literally, the sound of a new lung system booting up for the first time. The exhausted mother is given water, warmth, and rest immediately. Even in the earliest human societies, postpartum care, looking after the mother right after birth, was treated as seriously as the birth itself. This mattered enormously because the first hours after birth carried real risk too, especially from blood loss. The support didn't stop the moment the baby arrived. If anything, it got more careful. Outside, Ugg hears the cry and immediately tries to rush in. He is, once again, blocked by the same unseen hand from earlier. Some rules do not bend, even for excited new fathers. Borg, predictably, says he knew it would be fine all along and quietly pockets his betting pebbles before anyone can ask who actually won. Finn asks if he can see the baby yet. The answer, again, is no. Finn asks again, 4 seconds later. The answer is still no. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. That danger you just watched Ugg's tribe survive together isn't as far behind us as you think. Stick around, because what happens next completely changes how you should think about your own hospital birth. Maternal mortality in countries with strong medical access has dropped by well over 90% compared to historical baseline estimates. Something that once killed roughly 1 birth in 50 now in those places is genuinely rare. But globally, that progress is wildly uneven. In places without reliable medical access today, maternal mortality rates still look uncomfortably close to what Ugg's tribe was dealing with right now, in the present. In other words, the ancient danger this whole video is describing is not entirely ancient. For millions of people today, safe childbirth is still not guaranteed. Ugg's tribe just had no other option. Back at camp, morning arrives. Ugg is finally allowed inside and immediately trips over his own feet trying to get through the entrance. He is introduced to the baby. Ugg, a grown man who has survived predators, bad weather, and his own terrible ideas, immediately becomes speechless. Mara, watching from the doorway, says this is the first time she has ever seen Ugg go quiet for more than 5 seconds. Ugg does not argue, because he genuinely cannot form words right now. The whole tribe gathers outside as word spreads. Borg pretends he isn't emotional about it. Borg is extremely emotional about it. This entire scene, a tribe gathering to celebrate a new arrival, is not just a nice moment. It is, itself, part of the survival strategy. A baby born into a group that cares this much has dramatically better odds. Every single tradition in this video, the assisted birth, the herbal knowledge, the postpartum care, the community celebration, all of it points to the same conclusion. Humans did not survive childbirth through toughness alone. We survived it together. The obstetrical dilemma never went away. Big brains and narrow hips are still fighting the same evolutionary tug-of-war they always have. What changed is that we stopped facing it alone. So the next time someone tells you humans are the toughest species on the planet, remember, it was never really about toughness. It was about never letting anyone go through the hardest day of their life by themselves. And Ugg is fine. Ugg has appointed himself chief lookout, a job nobody asked him to do, and a job he is already doing badly. If this video taught you anything, it's that you are descended from an unbroken chain of people who survived the single hardest thing a human body can do, over and over for hundreds of thousands of years. That's a pretty good reason to exist. A new episode next week. Same tribe, same terrible decisions. Subscribe if you want to see what Ugg breaks next.